Suzanne will be recording the call. Suzanne and I join you from actually the Midwest in Northern California. We are representing Alpha in a Catholic context across the country, but we do welcome others on the call. You're all welcome to listen in on this particular forum, whether you're part of the Catholic Church or not, and whether you're from another part of the world or not. We're thrilled to have you with us today. As you know, friends, we do these webinars. We do 2 a month. This is the one we do the 4th Thursday every month, noon Eastern time. And the idea is that we've already been generally running Alpha for a little while, and we just want to keep getting better at it. So this is to really kind of dive deeper into some best practices or some very specific ways of running Alpha today. We'll be focusing on how do you use Alpha in conjunction with your RE parents in particular. And given the number of questions written in at registration, this is a hot topic. We have a whole lot of folks registered today. And as always, these webinars, we regret we can't have everybody speaking at the same time. It'd be a bit much. So if you have a question you would like us to address, please feel free to put those in the chat box or the Q&A box at any time in this 1-hour recording. Suzanne, if you'd lead us to the next slide, please. So again, this target audience of these Alpha administrator calls are for anyone who's leading Alpha, usually the Alpha administrator, although hosts and helpers are also welcome to join. And we have coaches around the country who are available to help you just keep getting better at running your Alpha. And of course, we also have clergy and pastors and other staff and lay leaders. We are thrilled to have you and appreciate your taking the time to be with us today. Remember, this call will be recorded. We will be sending a copy of the recording, all the slides you're about to see, all the links we're about to promise, as well as a lot of things that I think will attend to the questions that you wrote at registration and others that come up today. All that will be in one big email Suzanne will send to you, generally later today, maybe tomorrow morning. So watch for that, and we encourage you to review that and pass it on to others who you think you might bless them. All right, next slide, please, Suzanne. So just a reminder, these administrator calls that we do, again, once a month, these are the general topics, sort of our best practices of the essential elements of running a really great quality Alpha. And so these topics will be recorded. We keep these recordings on our YouTube channel. We have a special playlist just for each of these different types of webinars. So you will be able to find examples of these topics, and it's named there for you to go back and look at those. But again, just for those who might be on the phone and not seeing the video, to highlight these essential elements of running a good Alpha. Prayer, number 1. Listening leaders. How do you evangelistically position Alpha? Following the curriculum, the recipe of Alpha. Training your team. The essential weekend or day away. And of course, over all this is radical hospitality. How we treat one another to help people feel welcome even before they feel like they belong. So again, watch for those recordings. And more this year, we're also doing webinars on these administrator calls that are about working with other partnerships, the YMCA, for example, and some other organizations. And then this topic today is how do you work Alpha along with other types of programs. So watch for just kind of a lot of variety so that it can just keep getting better and more interesting for all of us. All right, and the next slide, please, Suzanne. And with no further ado, I am so thrilled to introduce our friend Jill Moore. She will be our guest speaker today, and she hails from Southern California. You can see some fun facts about Jill, and I am really intrigued that you're from Rockford, Illinois. I'm speaking to you from Naperville, just outside Chicago. So where I think it is not snowing today in practically May. And there you are in Southern Cal. So I can imagine the weather is just got to be just such a gift to you there, friend. So Jill, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So like Laura said, I originally grew up in the Rockford Diocese, just outside of Rockford, and I abandoned the snow about 10 years ago and moved to Southern California, where I live in the Los Angeles area in the San Fernando Valley. I worked as a youth minister for years, and then eventually was seeing that there was really a need in adult formation to get to the parents and evangelization, and that's how I kind of ended up here in California with my husband and my crazy life of 4 children, and we move along.
Bless you, Jill. It's awesome. And I love this 4 mores. That's so cute about you and your children. That's lovely. Yeah, so thank you. And I love that comment you just made that you were working first with the youth, but recognizing if we don't get to those parents, right, where those kids spend the rest of their week. Exactly. And I just get that. So thank you so much for highlighting that. And again, just the recognition, we each have our own unique calling. And you were feeling like the next season now is to focus on those parents, those adults. So
absolutely, yeah, it was really a big thing because I saw that there were parents who were just questioning how do I connect with it, and so that's where I saw the need. So it was time to move.
Awesome, thank you, Jill. So tell us how you guys at Our Lady of Grace started to run Alpha in the first place.
So Alpha at Our Lady of Grace, actually, I laugh and say that I jumped on a moving bus when I came to Our Lady of Grace. I started here 2 years ago in 2016, and I started in August, and our pastor, Father Jay, is just very well-minded about evangelization in the parish, and he really wanted to make sure that was happening. So he had already started this process for Alpha. He had some key people in place. He had a little leadership team going, and the leadership team said, this is bigger than we can run. We need someone to come and run this for us. So he started looking for someone to hire. So it was actually really funny is that I had, just started to look into what Alpha was, and I came into Our Lady of Grace, and within 6 weeks was running my first Alpha course. So it was a moving train, and we stumbled along the way, but we have now managed to we run 2 sessions each course we do. We run one in the fall and one in the spring. And we usually try to do 1 weekend course and then one during the week. And we're on our 4th one, and we've stumbled and fallen along the way, but have learned a lot. And so I'm excited to get to share some of that today.
That's awesome, Jill. Jill, often people want to know the size of your parish. So how large? Yeah,
so our parish is about, we have about 2,000 families here. So we're kind of relatively a bigger parish, but we're about average for the area that we're in. We are just outside of the downtown Los Angeles. We're close to the coast. So we have a younger group of people that are living around us. So we do see some access to hit. We have a lot of millennials that are part of our Alpha course.
Awesome. And that is such a target audience for so many parishes. How do we reach them? So how are you guys reaching them? I mean, they just happen to be all over the place, but how are they coming into your church?
Yeah, so one of the ways, and I laugh about this, is that one of the ways is our church is extremely gorgeous. We have stained glass everywhere, so we get a lot of people who come in for weddings because it's pretty. and so through that, we always offer the Alpha course as an option for them, because a lot of times these people, even though they're searching for a wedding venue, are really not practicing in any way. And so that was one of the ways that we did it. Another way was that we decided to combine Alpha with our religious ed program, because we really saw that our millennial parents of our young kids, they were coming in, they were dropping their kids off, and there's like 5 coffee shops just down the road from us. So it was like stop and run, and then they would go and hang out at the coffee shop for an hour and a half before they would come back. So we kind of went, well, that's not really our plan for this. And we would never see these people at Mass. These were literally, we're coming because our parents or our grandparents or someone says that this is what we're supposed to do. So we needed to find a way to reach them. So we sat down and went, there's going to be some struggle, but let's try to really invite all of our parents who have kids who are preparing to receive First Communion and First Reconciliation this year. and let's make it a request that they come to Alpha, because we don't like the word requirement. so,
Yep.
we asked them, could you, we sent out a letter with registration when our parents registered for First Communion, and we said, we have this new program, it's called Alpha. We want to partner with you about raising your child in the church, because obviously this is something that's important to you, we're hoping. And we're just asking you to come to the first 3. And so that's kind of where we started, is we said, we just ask you to come to 3 sessions. And then if Alpha's not for you, that's cool. Don't, we're not asking any more than that. And we did that for our first session, and it worked okay. What we found was that we needed to be very specific in our language, because our religious ed families, especially our millennials, they were very, because primarily who we were getting were Gen Xers and millennials coming to that. Mm-hmm. That's kind of our RE parent generations that we've got. And they were very literal about it. And so we would have like a mom come to the first session, and then dad would come to the second session of Alpha. We're like, okay, that wasn't the plan.
Yeah.
So now we need to reword this a little bit more. Wow. We need to work on our marketing a little for this. So when we worked it in our spring or in our fall session, the following this past year, actually this past fall, we were very specific, and we said, we need 1 parent to come to 3 sessions. We made sure to do the first 3 sessions. And then one of the things that we did that was actually what worked the best for really hooking our parents in is that we have, at the beginning of the year, and I know most religious education programs do this, we have a parent meeting where the DRE goes over all the rules and the expectations and all of that for religious ed. So we did that, and we lengthened our parent meeting a little bit is what we did. We took some stuff out, and then we had someone who had been on our Alpha course before come up and give a short witness. And then we actually showed the first video, Is There More to Life Than This?
Wow, in your parent meeting?
In our parent meeting.
Wow, so the 25-minute version from the film series, I'm guessing?
Yeah, the 25-minute version from our film series. We showed this video to them, and we didn't plan any discussion for afterwards. We didn't do any small group follow-up. We just showed the video, and then we said, we'll have Alpha team members around the room. Please come and sign up or talk to us if you want to afterwards. Very casual, very unintimidating, and it was phenomenal. Because our witness speaker was also someone who had children, and so she spoke about how the Alpha course for her really was that moment when she realized she didn't know how to talk to her children about God.
Oh, wow.
And so it opened that all up for her, and she was like, and this gave me words and opportunities and the ability to talk with other parents that were in my small group about how do you do it? So this topic of who is Jesus? How do you tell your kid who Jesus is? And we had a conversation about that as we were talking about who he is for us. And so she was talking about how she was able to take that home with her kid each week. And then we were able to show the video. So we had parents who came up to us, and they were one in particular, and he came up and he and his wife walked up to us and he said, that video, he goes, I'm not an emotional guy, but watching that video, I realized that we're missing something. Wow. And so we're going to come to these 3 sessions, and we're going to give it a chance, and we're going to do this together, my wife and I. And it was beautiful to see that. And that's one of, probably 10 to 15 different stories that we have of parents who were really touched by this opportunity to see it, that even said to us, you know what, probably if you hadn't shown that video, we wouldn't come to Alpha because it was just such a requirement we were supposed to do.
Oh, yeah. I just want to interject here, Jill. I mean, I'm getting emotional here myself, and I'm not watching the video. I'm just hearing the story. So, and, you know, most of us listening in have been running Alpha, and so it's our heart, right? That people would make that connection, and I love it, the brilliance the Lord has given you guys. So I'm just going to interject, friends. I mean, I've got a lot of questions. So if you've got questions, put them in the chat box or Q&A. We want to see those, make sure that, and Jill's given us a process here, and I mean, I feel like I need to be scribbling notes. Do you have all this written down somewhere, Jill, your process that you're kind of learning?
We don't, but we could.
I hate to give you homework, so if somebody on the call is taking notes, please send it along to us. I'm sure Suzanne is probably doing that as we speak. So I mean, this is what a testimony. So thank you for putting that first. I'm going to let you start talking some more as people start putting questions in there, and then we'll get to some other questions. So did you have more before we start diving in on the Q&A?
Sure. So we did find, as you know, as I give that testimony, and it sounds like it was this big, beautiful thing, there was, you know, there are logistical struggles with doing it with religious ed that I want to acknowledge, because our religious ed classes were an hour and a half long, and Alpha we run about 2 hours. So we had to really work with our catechists, and the solution that we came up with that worked for our parish was that we still have an hour and a half for religious ed, and then our catechists rotate through, and we just provide childcare for those kids for an extra half hour at the end of class. And so we make sure to tell our Alpha guests that have kids in religious ed, we've got childcare for you all the way through the session. You don't have to leave a half hour early to go and do that. One of the other things is that we also do really see a need to provide childcare during the session, because a lot of these parents have either older kids or younger kids who aren't in the religious ed program. So we also need to offer that for them as well. So that's one of our other logistical things. And then just working around religious ed schedules. So we make sure that, you know, we're meeting when the kids are meeting, that we're not doubling up on parent meetings and practices and things like that need to happen. So the spring can be a little tricky.
Yeah.
With sacraments that happen in the spring typically for the kids. So that Alpha gets a little choppy when we run that course, but for the rest we tend to have that flow pretty well. We do also.
So I just want to pause you here. Sorry, Jill, but just the point that you guys are committed to this. So you're going to make it work from the pastor on down through the staff, because it takes a lot of coordination. You're working with all the youth people. I mean, you guys have got to be committed to this model so that you can make this thing work, because the goal is to get these people to come. So you will do what it takes. That's what we're hearing. Now, there are questions popping up in our, Suzanne's telling me, Laura, there's questions here in chat. So I just want to go to Marianne's question because it applies to what you just shared. So what happened, right? So originally people were just coming to the first three. Did you see a shift in people sticking it out after you do the film?
We did.
Yeah. Okay.
So we do have. I laugh because one of our tables, one of our hosts in the past had been a confirmation leader, and she actually on this last one ended up with a table that she said, Jill, I feel like I'm back with high school teenagers, because they came for the first three. They were, you know, these are the people that Alpha's really designed for. She thought half of her table came for the first three and then disappeared. And the first three sessions that they were there, they sat there with crossed arms and had about one-word answers to the questions.
Love them. We love them.
You know, it was the whole thing. And we just, and it was great because we we tell our hosts and helpers, you know what, we just love these people all the way through it. We know people are going to be coming just for 3 sessions sometimes, but our goal is that they're going to come for those 3 and they're going to continue. And about 75% of them continue to come. We lose about a quarter of our people for 3 sessions, but the rest really tend to want to continue on with the process because they're excited. And then at the end of Alpha, we get questions of, so what's next? How can you help us to continue to tell our kids about this? How can we share this with our kids? So that's really kind of the ultimate goal.
And what are you guys doing?
We have two options for them. We have small community that we allow the parents to do. That one we kind of tend more for our weeknight session. Our religious ed, I should explain, is on Saturday mornings. So that's when our Alpha on Saturday mornings is our kind of our religious ed focused one. Then our weeknight one does more of the small community. On Saturday mornings, we also, starting this next fall, we're going to be offering, continuing to offer a class on Saturday mornings for parents that want just some additional follow-up of, we're looking at their child's book, and we're actually going to go through their child's religious ed book with them and have faith sharing about what is the topic that your child is doing right now, because that's what they have asked us to do. So it's really been a listening process with them. We said we were going to partner with them, so we're staying committed to, we said we'd partner. What are you asking us to do next?
Oh, it's awesome, Jill. You're being of your word. And there's just nothing greater than the integrity. I just want to, for variety, Suzanne, are there any questions in Q&A? It is popping. I want to know if there's anything there we should address live.
Yes. So tell us about how you do a meal and how do you do hospitality in this situation?
Yeah, so that's actually interesting because it's another piece of where we really had to work with our catechists and our entire mentality of how we were going to look at what this Alpha was going to look like if we're going to commit to doing it with religious ed. So our religious ed is Saturday mornings, which means we're doing breakfast for Alpha. And for the most part, most parents drop their kids off in their classrooms and then come into Alpha and have breakfast with us. We do have some parents who are there earlier, and so they bring their kids with them to Alpha and they have breakfast with us with their whole family, and then they go off to religious ed. And so we really had to work with some of our catechists because the kids were coming in 15, 20 minutes late because they were having breakfast at Alpha with their parents. And so we had to kind of have this conversation of, we don't want to discourage that family togetherness time of being together at church, but we also need to be aware of the scheduling. So we had to really work to find kind of that happy medium of how do we do that. And we're fortunate because it's breakfast, so breakfast is a little easier. We alternate each week. Some weeks we'll do like a hot breakfast where we'll have people do overnight egg casseroles, and so we'll have those be baked for us. And then the following week we'll do, just bagels, like a continental bagels and cream cheese and cereal and fresh fruit and that kind of a thing.
That's awesome. Okay, a couple more. So for those that continue beyond the 3 sessions, do you then just treat it like a normal Alpha? Do you have your day away and that kind of thing?
We do. We treat it exactly like a normal Alpha. It just continues on. We see, a little bit of a drop off, like I mentioned, after those first 3 sessions. But for the most part, most people continue on through all the way. We do a day away on a Saturday. We try to work that well with our religious ed classes so that our catechists know which of our parents are on the day away so that they take them to our Alpha Childcare so that it's all handled for them as we go through.
Perfect. Okay, so once a parent has completed Alpha, do they come back on the same Alpha course that 2nd or 3rd year of religious ed? or then are they just hosts and helpers? How does that, how are you making that work? Or maybe you've not even gotten to that point yet.
So one of the really great things is because it's religious ed, the parents are kind of there for a while on Saturday mornings with their kids. So we do have parents who've come back to us and we've brought them into team as hosts and helpers. And then we have some parents who really just don't feel comfortable being hosts or helpers yet. So they have gone on to do kind of the follow-up pieces to Alpha and sit in on those classes. And it's interesting because they just did those classes this past spring session, and now I went in and I was talking with them just last week, and they were like, yeah, you know what, we really miss Alpha. I'm thinking in the fall we'd like to come help Alpha. So it's great because
that's cool.
they sense that community that was there and that place to belong, and they really want to continue that for the next course of parents.
That's awesome. So then, did you, when you sent out the letter to, or when you sent out the notice to the parents, like a letter ahead of time, did you give them a warning that this is what you were going to require them? And oh, by the way, we're going to show you the first video in the set, you know, like you said. Did they get any warning about this before the parent meeting?
They did not. So they knew that they needed to attend the first 3 Alpha classes when they first registered.
Okay.
They had no idea that we were going to be showing that video at the parent meeting. And part of it was because we knew we were going to be getting some pushback from parents about putting this new requirement, even though we put it as a request, putting this new, this is more hoops we have to jump through. So we really wanted them to understand that it was something that we weren't trying to shame them, that they, you know, didn't know enough to be able to be forming their kids the way they should be, or they weren't bringing them to church, but that we really wanted to partner with them, that we were committed to make this more than just get your kids the sacraments and then maybe we'll see you for confirmation. Like, we wanted them to know that we want to walk with you on this. We want to be part of your parent journey. And so we felt like that first video showing that really helped to let the parents know that this wasn't about a course about, well, you need to check off these boxes, but it was really a course about, let's work together.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, the first video is so engaging anyway that it's hard to, hard to not be engaged after that. So how did you just require this then, or not require, request this of all the parents, or did you use a certain target group?
We specifically targeted our second year First Communion prep parents.
Okay.
That was who we targeted initially. We have since opened it up, and we now make, you know, the request to everyone that's in religious ed, and knowing that we have parents who are kind of repeat parents that are coming in for that second year. But that was our initial launch because we really weren't sure how much pushback we were going to get from parents of, you're requiring us to do more stuff. You're making our kids stay longer on a Saturday morning. It was supposed to be just an hour and a half. Now we're going to be there for 2 hours. And what we found was that most parents, even though they said, this is, you know, another thing that we have to do, they really found, even those who weren't able to help us on the next course, we find that they're the ones who are telling the other parents who haven't gone that you really need to do this. This is really great.
That's great.
So the idea that they're the ones who are inviting the other parents and they're making it so that it's not just this requirement,
right,
shows me that it's working to some extent.
Right. It means a lot more to come from the other parents than it does from you. Exactly. So how did you start this before you had an established Alpha team, or had you already run Alpha with an established Alpha team prior to this request?
We did. We ran Alpha in the fall of 2016, and we did 2 courses. We did not make the request at that point for anyone with our religious ed families. Then in our spring course was when we made the request to our RE families. We kind of had tossed around in the fall doing it, and we said, let's wait, because it's, for one thing, as I said, I kind of jumped onto a moving train. So things were already in place when I came in of when Alpha was going to start, and religious ed was starting at the same time, so we didn't have a chance to really roll it out to our religious ed families in a way that we felt like we could explain what we were doing. So we did it in the spring instead, and as I said, we learned along the way that we needed to be a little more specific in our words, and tell parents, no, we want you to be at the first 3 alphas, not just any 3.
Right. Yeah.
And we had people who came in the spring who came to like the first one, and then we didn't see them again till the last 2, and we were like, well, wasn't really our plan, but that's okay.
Right. Yeah. People take you literally.
Yeah. And then ones where we're like, well, you're not. What group were you in last week? They're like, oh, I'm an RE parent. I'm like, I don't remember you from last week. Were you here last week? Oh, my wife was here last week.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Great. Okay. So about childcare, then, I assume that your childcare providers were, had all the safe protection or all the child protection stuff, classes done, and then also, did you have a program for the tots?
So what we did is, because we're very fortunate and we are in Southern California, we actually just had our kids. We have a school, and so our kids were just outside playing on our playground. They would come in, they would have breakfast with their parents, and then our childcare coordinators would take them outside and they would play games with them, and so it was really just a time for them to be outside and have fun. If it was too hot, we would have them outside for a little while, and then they would come back in and they might have like a snack and watch a video. But we really kind of kept it very low key and fun. And one of the things that we found was that some of our kids who were in childcare were actually also telling their friends, you need to ask your mommy and daddy to bring you to Alpha so that you can come play with me on Saturday mornings.
That's awesome.
So, evangelization through childcare.
Yeah, that's awesome. So does your parish have a school? And if so, are there any plans to do something like that for the parents?
We do. We have a school, and we have just started working with getting our school parents involved in that process. And that's actually where we've gotten more pushback than with our religious ed families. We've found that part of it is, as we did ask our 2nd grade parents this past year to join us for the first 3 Alpha classes, and part of it was that our school parents felt like, well, there's so many other requirements we have to do for the school, and now we've got this one too with the parish, and as with a lot of Catholic schools, our school parents, some of them have a pretty big disconnect between school and parish, and so we're working on bringing that together, and we're using Alpha as a tool to help us make them feel invited as well.
Great. So you can come back next year and tell us how you've succeeded in that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Indeed, Jill.
Yeah.
Suzanne, thank you so much. So that is a big question, so what's the fruit beyond Alpha? Are you seeing more people engaged in Mass and other parts of the ministry? Any example on that, Jill?
Yeah, we actually, one of the great things that we are seeing is that these people are coming to Mass more often from those who have gone through the Alpha course with us the whole time. One of my favorite stories is that one of our religious ed, actually one of our school parents who came through the Alpha course hadn't been to Mass in probably, I think she said it'd been about 10 years since she'd been to Mass. And so she walked into Mass during Holy Week last year, and she said she came to Alpha right afterwards, and she went, "Hey guys, the church didn't fall down." I went to mass and the church didn't fall down. And we were like, oh, that's awesome. And everyone was so excited that she was there, and it was just really great. And we've also seen that it's starting to change the culture within our parish as well at mass, where we had there was one of our masses, and I was there, and we had a bunch of our Alpha guests who were at mass, and it was actually Holy Thursday, and so they were actually, some of our Alpha guests were the ones who were getting their feet washed for Holy Thursday. And so I was up front and I was talking with them, and this parishioner came up to me and she said, Jill, I just realized I don't know any of these people, and I don't know you, and I've been a parishioner here for 19 years, and you guys look like you're having so much fun. Can you tell me, like, what is this? What is going on? And I was like, oh, well, these are guests that were on the Alpha course, and that's one of the things that I do here in the parish. And I'm explaining it to her, and she has since come on the Alpha course. She had disengaged from the church for a while. She has now come on the Alpha course and is one of our small group leaders for our follow-up to Alpha after that. So we are seeing the fruits of all of this work and the commitment to doing it with religious ed coming forward as we see these people really start to get more engaged in Mass as well.
Glory be. Thank you, Jill, for that testimony. Friends, I just want to remind you, with our remaining 23 minutes, we will begin and end on time like all things Alpha. Be sure to put those in the Q&A or the chat box if you have anything else. Question did come through. Do you have a Hispanic community? If so, do you offer Alpha to them, Jill?
We do. Thank you for asking that. I actually forgot to mention. On Saturday mornings, we're in Los Angeles, so we have a large Hispanic community. Yeah. And we actually run our Alpha on Saturday morning bilingually. So what we do is we have everyone in the same room together in our hall, and we're all having breakfast together and fellowship together. We have a bilingual MC who welcomes everyone in English and in Spanish. We do some worship songs in English and then Spanish, and then what we do is we break into two separate rooms for videos. So we show the videos in Spanish and we show the videos in English, and then we come back together, and those who were at their discussion tables have their discussion either in English or in Spanish based on that. So when we welcome people to that first Alpha course, our question is always, hi, welcome, we're so glad you're here. Do you prefer your discussion in English or in Spanish? As we're trying to put them at tables. So it's really great. And we found that it's just been such a blessing for our parish to be able to put everyone together in one room and really show that it is one church.
Amen. And so you're doing both and. We're together when we can be, and then we'll split out for the video. Suzanne's got some more questions for us.
So after the parents watch the initial video, this is something I was wondering too. So you watch the initial video in the parent meeting. Do you show that again on the first week, or you just start out with Who is Jesus?
We just start out with Who is Jesus then. Yeah.
Okay. So then you're doing Who is Jesus, Why did Jesus die, and then prayer? Are those three that you're showing? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you get any pushback from anybody in parish or school staff about Alpha not being Catholic, ? Or not wanting them to find something similar that's in the Catholic Church?
Yes. And always my comment is always to them, there's nothing in it that's not Catholic. And people go, well, but it's not talking about the sacraments. And I said, we'll talk about the sacraments later. That's what your kids are doing in class. It's just, this is Alpha. This is the first course. This is about getting to know who God is, who Jesus is, how do we relate to them, how do we get to know who they are. And usually when I explain that, especially with for our millennial parents that we have who come in, they really respond to the beauty of the videos, and then this idea that we're just easing into what all the requirements are. Because I will often say this isn't about the requirements of the Catholic Church and the rules and the regulations. This is about the relationship. Mm-hmm. And when I say that to the people who are coming at me going, well, you know, because in Los Angeles, obviously, we have a lot of different churches. And so they'll see Alpha at other churches here, and they're like, that's not a Catholic church. This isn't a Catholic program. And I'm like, no, it's not. But it is Christian, and we are all Christian. And so that usually will appease them to some extent. And those that it doesn't, we just direct them to the Alpha follow-ups or to Father's Bible study.
Okay, good. So have you tried running a youth Alpha and doing the same thing with the youth parents?
We have not, but that has been a request that we've gotten from actually some of our school parents who have older children, and they've said, so is there this video, that was actually the question I would get from the parents. They'd go, can we show these videos to our kids for the Alpha film series? And I'm like, actually, there's an Alpha youth course. And so we're actually working on getting a team together for that to try to launch Alpha Youth here and then run a parent course concurrently with that. Perfect. Because there seems to be some energy for it.
Right. So do you invite all the parishioners to your Saturday morning Alpha, or is it just your religious ed parents?
It is open to all, to anyone. So we have it, we publish it out in, we are actually on a main thoroughfare of the valley. So we publish that out there so that people driving by see it. We run all kinds of ads about it. So even our Saturday morning that's really designed for our religious ed parents is open to anyone who wants to come in and within the whole parish.
Okay, great. And then what do you use in your sources for this follow-up class that you do? What kind of study kind of things do you use?
So what we use for the follow-up class that we do with our religious ed families, we're looking at their the children's textbook that they are doing and kind of looking at what the topics are for that and basing what our small group sharing would be off of that. For our small communities that we use, we are actually using a resource from Evangelical Catholic called Believe. It's a little booklet, and that has been going really well. The small groups have really enjoyed that.
Perfect. Okay, so are there people who come to your course then that if they're not from the religious ed parents, they've not seen the first video? How do you handle that? We don't really address it when they don't see the first video, who are coming who weren't at that first parent meeting. What we do is sometimes it will come up in the small group discussion that they'll be like, oh, I didn't see that video, when the parents are kind of talking about this video that they saw the week before. And so then at that point, what we've trained our hosts to do is to share the link with that previous video with those guests. And one of the things that we also do is if people have registered, which not all of our guests register for our Alpha ahead of time, but if they've registered for it ahead of time, we send them a link to watch that first video before they come in. And we're like, here's a preview of what you're going to see, so that they don't feel like they're missing that one. Right, good. So how do you get your childcare volunteers? Do you have any suggestions for people who have issues with that?
Lots of prayer. That is actually our biggest challenge, is always getting our childcare volunteers. One of the things that we do is we have, when we bring our team together, is we always recruit one person to be kind of our childcare coordinator for that, which means that our expectation is that you will be there if no one else is there. Then we have the blessing of having a school. So one of the things that we have worked out with our pastor and the school principal is that parents of the school would get volunteer hours from the school if they volunteer for childcare. And this is great for us because parents of the school are already have all their safeguard the children stuff done because they want to volunteer in the kids' school. So they have to have that done for that. So we know that that stuff is done for them. And then they're also getting their school hours. So they just sign up. We publish, what our alpha dates are and what the need is, and we usually fill and have two parents there, so that then our coordinator for childcare doesn't necessarily need to be there every week.
Okay, great.
Doing childcare.
So, just reading this one, it appears that your Saturday Alpha is wide open to anyone who wants to come without pre-registration. So, how do you build a team big enough to handle that unknown number?
Well, we never know exactly how many are going to be at Alpha for any of them. We do Alpha on Saturday mornings and Monday evenings, and for neither of them do we know how many are coming. In the fall, we had much larger groups. This past fall, we had about 80 people on Saturday mornings and 50 to 60 guests on Monday evening. But then this spring, we have about 20 guests on Monday evening and 30 guests on Saturday morning. So we never really know how many we're going to have. We kind of hope and trust in the spirit that we're going to have enough. That's why it's kind of important when we build our tables out, we always really try to keep those two hosts and two helpers at all the tables, because we find that what happens is if we end up that we're scrambling to try to get more hosts and helpers, we can grab and flip one of those teams at the last minute. And that's what happened actually at our fall Alpha, was that we were able to do that. So that's kind of how we cover and make sure that we've got enough people for our volunteers.
Great, that's awesome. Those are all the questions I
Jill,
have.
Awesome, thank you. 12 minutes, friends. If you have a question, please put it in the Q&A or chat box. Jill, we're just going to keep pummeling you, friend. There was a question that it's big for me, and it's big for us at Alpha, about prayer. What is the intentional way you guys cover, approach prayer? Because you got a lot going on, and clearly the Lord has been good to you. So how do you guys pray into that?
Yeah, and I'll admit that our first Alpha, we fell down on prayer pretty bad, and we felt it. so we struggled with our first fall Alpha, and then we realized that we really needed to make sure that we were covered in prayer and be more intentional about that. So we have our prayer warriors. We have people who have gone through the Called and Gifted program and who have actually are discerning that they have gifts in prayer, and so in intercessory prayer. And so we actually recruited them and said, hey, can you help us to organize the prayer piece for Alpha? And so what they have done for us, and it's phenomenal, is that they have a group of people that they are in contact with, that they pray for, and they actually list out a schedule of, so here's when we're going to be recruiting for Alpha. Can you pray for all of those people who are supposed to be coming? And they have specific prayer intentions based on what the Alpha topics are for each week that they send out, and are reminding these people of, this is what we are praying for as we go through, because we really feel that, we have to cover it with prayer as much as we can, or else none of this would be possible.
Praise God. Jill, thank you for that reminder of how essential the Lord's role is. It is so easy to forget, and then when we fall on our face, that's a great reminder. So thank you for that, friend. How about working with confirmation candidates? Have you guys brought Alpha into that program at all?
We have not brought Alpha into our confirmation program yet. Our confirmation program meets once a month. So that's a bit of a challenge for us to work out how Alpha would fit into that yet. We're still trying to discern that, because we know that that's another need, because especially for me as a youth minister, I would see that, where you'd have these kids who'd go on their confirmation retreat and they were on this super high, and then they'd go home and their parents are like, yeah, why are you so excited about Jesus? Okay. We see that need, but we're still trying to discern how that would work best in our parish.
Yep. Awesome. That'll be a topic for another webinar, friends. So let us know if that topic of teaming up alpha with confirmation is of interest to you. Let us know. So this is an interesting point made at registration, Jill. We have Catholics who completely avoid the day away or evening because they're afraid aren't open to being prayed over. Mm-hmm. Prayer ministry thing might be kind of pushing some people off. Have you guys run into that?
Yes. We have people who will come to every single one of the alphas, but they will blatantly tell us we're not. I mean, as soon as the day away is brought up and that there's this opportunity for prayer on the day away, and people are like, nope, not doing it, not going to go to that. Don't want to deal with that weird thing. And so what we found was that we actually tweaked the Does God Heal Today session when there's that opportunity to pray for healing, and we invited people who would come to that session and not come to our day away, and we would say, can we pray with you on this one? And we would do it within their small groups where they were already comfortable. And so we found that when we did that, people were a lot less intimidated by it because it was a group of people that they were comfortable with. Now, we did still have one or two who said no. and we just had to let that go and be okay with it. And we also reminded people, we had one person who was like, oh, well, I don't want to be prayed over, so I don't want to go to the day away. And we said, you don't have to be prayed over when you go to the day away. And so they actually came on the day away, and they've been on 2 day aways with us, actually. They went to the first one, and they were not prayed over. And then they came, and they were a helper on our next alpha, and they went to the day away on that one, and they actually asked they were the first one to ask to be prayed over as a helper on that day away, because they realized, the Lord had kind of worked in his own time with them with prayer ministry. And so we found that just assuring people that you can say no to prayer ministry on the day away.
Good.
Really helps.
I love that, Jill. Thank you for that example. A couple other questions. Somebody had written in the Q&A box. Do you guys always use the film series for all the talks? Do you add any extra live? Are you supplementing this thing with some Catholic stuff? How are you guys handling that?
The only thing that we do is, and this is fresh on my mind because we are coming into our last session for this Alpha course, is our final session for Alpha. Our pastor actually gives that talk live. Mm-hmm. So we do use the film series for all of the videos. We don't supplement with anything else. But then the final talk, our pastor gives live, and it's great because then he gets to infuse a little bit of our parish vision statement, which is to know Jesus, love Jesus, share Jesus. And so he gets to infuse that into the talk of what about the church, and talking about how to involve themselves and get involved in our parish community. So it's really great for them to see kind of that face of their local church.
That's great. Awesome. And is he generally using the transcript from the talk for the bulletin?
He is, yeah. For the most part, he uses that. Obviously, he adds in his own stories because he's Irish. But
oh, very good.
But yeah, so he does a great job with that talk as well.
Very good. Thanks, Jill. A question also came in about music. How do you guys, when do you introduce it? Is it live, recorded? How do you handle it?
It depends on who we can get. So we are actually very blessed, and our choir director is one of our Alpha hosts. on Monday nights. So she leads our music live for us on Monday evenings. And we introduce music right from the very first session. So we don't ever not have music at any of the sessions. And we tell people right at the beginning, you don't have to sing. We're just going to start with song because we feel like it kind of helps you to walk away from the day and everything that you've had, and that's kind of how we start. And then we progressively ask people to sing with us more. We encourage them more and more as we go through the week. We also have done video as well. We tend to use video more often on Saturday mornings because it is more of a challenge to find worship leaders who can lead worship bilingually. So sometimes we'll tend to do, a song in Spanish and a song in English, and we'll use a video for that.
And are your songs in the very beginning very religious-y? Is there a progression over the series that they get more about Jesus?
Yeah, there's a progression over the series. So like our first songs are usually just, we'll do something, that everybody kind of knows, like an Amazing Grace or something like that as we're starting off. That's not super grounded in, yes, this is, asking Jesus to enter into our lives. It's just, very gentle. And then as we come through, we kind of start to add in the more Jesus stuff.
More Jesus.
Jill,
and one more question.
I was just going to say, do you get a lot of non-Christians attending your Alpha?
Yeah.
We have a mixed bag, yes. So we have some who are non-Christians, but we are still, for the most part, because we've only been running Alpha for 2 years now. So for the most part, we are still hitting a lot of our not necessarily engaged parishioners and inactive Catholics is who we're hitting for the most part. But we are in a very, in our area, we have a lot of Muslim influence as well. So we do get some Muslims that are coming into our Alpha course, and they find that it's very different than what they expected a Catholic church to be as they come in, because they kind of expected to be judged as soon as they came in and told that they had to go through these programs to be able to enter into the church. And so instead, to kind of find this community place first has been very, very welcoming for them.
That's awesome. That's cool. Very cool.
That's awesome, Jill. Thank you so much. So friends, we are out of time. I just want to thank you, Jill, for your incredible story. You're so well presented. Our Lady of Grace is very fortunate to have you there, my friend. We are just and so honored to know you, and I know you help us out with some local training there as well. So we're thrilled to have you. Suzanne, thank you for all of your work here today. We want to thank everybody who's joined us today, whether live or on the recording. And please remember, a copy of this recording and the slides and all of these promise links. And I think Suzanne will also want to include something about called and gifted that Jill mentioned earlier to kind of help folks identify their gifts. We'll have a link if you guys don't know what that is. We want you to know. So friends, we just want to bless you and release you. And please, as always, feel free to reach out to us any way we can be of support to you. Thanks again.